So this is our second podcast on child sexual exploitation. So over to you, Andrea. Definition.
Yeah. Child sexual exploitation, or CSE, as it's quite commonly known, is a type of sexual abuse in which children are sexually exploited for money, power or status. And that means that children receive something as payment almost for the sexual acts that they're asked to perform, and that can be food, accommodation, drugs, alcohol, cigarettes. And because of that, are usually quite vulnerable people that they target that are on the streets and late at night and that sort of thing.
Okay. So we were talking before, so I didn't realise there were 3 types of child sexual exploitation.
Yeah, there is child abuse online, child sexual exploitation in gangs, and obviously CSE that takes place face to face.
So we'll look at those one at a time. So first of all, online child exploitation, sexual exploitation.
Yeah. By far, probably the biggest way of pulling children in or exploiting children at the minute is using social media. And when sexual exploitation happens online, young people may be persuaded or forced to post or send sexual explicit images of themselves, or to take part in sexual activities via a webcam or a smartphone, or have sexual conversations by text or online. And then the abusers threaten to send these images, videos, whichever they've used, to their family and their friends unless they perform other sexual acts. And images or videos, obviously, once they've gone into cyberspace, stay there for a very, very long time. So even when the abuse has stopped, they can carry on exploiting young people in this way.
Okay, so CSE in gangs.
Yeah, sexual exploitation in gangs is used to exert power and control over members, and they initiate young people into gangs, and then that gives them a sense of feeling secure or that somebody cares about them. But the payback for that is that they have to be involved in sexual activity in order to stay in that gang or to receive protection from that gang. Gangs quite often will try and exploit girls and young women from other gangs to inflict sexual assault as a weapon in conflict almost. And girls and young women are frequently forced into sexual activity by gang members. Girls considered to be engaging in casual sex were seen as forfeiting their right to refuse sex. So once they'd initiated them into the gangs and it became the norm for them to take part in sexual activity, there was no right for them to say no, enough's enough. And the majority of sexual exploitation within gangs is committed by teenage boys or men in their 20s.
And I think the talk that the ex-gang member who came into the academy a couple of years ago, he spoke to some year 10 students, was particularly how girls are coerced into gangs, particularly through and the link to drug addiction and also alcohol, and how that can be used in addition to coercion and violence.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so the last one, face-to-face.
Yeah, quite a short description for this one. Basically, CSE face-to-face is children or young people may be tricked into believing they're in a loving, consensual relationship. They might be invited to parties and given drugs and alcohol, and they're quite often passed around the group then and abused. They're groomed by one person, usually an older person. They feel flattered by the fact that it's an older relationship, and the video that you'll watch later on is around that relationship forming and then them being then introduced into a gang or a group of young men that then continue to abuse.
Okay, so the signs that colleagues should look for CSE.
Yeah, so when young people are involved in CSE, they quite often are in an abusive relationship and they maybe feel intimidated and fearful of certain people or situations. You may have somebody that's been quite comfortable with you for a while, male or female, and suddenly doesn't want to be in a room with you on your own, they want other people around. They may hang out with groups of older people or antisocial groups or with other vulnerable peers, or associate with young people involved in sexual exploitation. They could get involved in gangs, gang fights and gang membership, so you're looking for an escalation of them becoming more aggressive and talking about who they've been fighting with at the weekends perhaps. You may have somebody that's got an older boyfriend or girlfriend and talks about it because, as we said, they're quite flattered by the fact that they're in that relationship. And they could spend time or talk about time that they spent at places which would cause concerns, such as hotels or bedsits or derelict properties. Or they may become missing from home, from the care environment or from education. And the behaviours that we need to be watching out for is the young person that becomes withdrawn or anxious, depressed, or may become aggressive where they haven't been before, or suddenly starts to lose a lot of weight or wear a lot of additional makeup. Obviously self-harm is an issue for a lot of these young people, and as we've already mentioned, they may go missing.
I think that last point, missing, and I know a student who was in my tutor group at a previous school I worked at. Quite often after school she'd go straight to South Manchester, to a different area of the city where gang members had a flat, and she presumed it was, well, she thought it was a boyfriend, but actually it wasn't that. It was a gang situation, and anyway, that ended on a good note.
That's good. I mean, it can happen at any age, and we are aware of young people from the age of 11 and 12 who are showing signs of being groomed or brought into CSE.
So who sexually exploits children and young people?
Yeah, just a little bit of information about who you could possibly be looking out for. The difficulty with this is we don't actually know a great deal about who commits child sexual exploitation, because the identification of the abusers is difficult for the young people that have been involved. Our data isn't often recorded or is inconsistent and incomplete. And children and young people often only know their abuser by an alias or a nickname, or they've altered their appearance, or they might only know them by sight, they've never given them a name. And quite often we find that they're passed between abusers and assaulted by multiple perpetrators. And there again, they're moved from location to location and abused in different places. We know that at the moment a lot of young people in Manchester are actually being found in Birmingham. And young people, of course, are given alcohol and drugs, and that blurs the memory of the events that have taken place. And the number of known perpetrators is likely to be far higher than those that we're aware of or those that are reported.
And of course, child exploitation does happen in the family.
Yeah.
So some stats here.
Yeah, a few statistics from the NSPCC, just to give you an idea of how big the problem is that 72% of abusers are male, and 10% of abusers were female. And where we've got where those figures don't quite actually add up, that's where the data's missing or inconsistent. And evidence indicated that the age range of abusers is from as young as 12 years of age to up to 75 years of age. And when we looked at ethnic groups that had been recorded, the majority of perpetrators were white, and the second largest group were Asian.
So if you can pause this presentation for a second and open up the CSE video. Okay, welcome back. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you found it useful. So you just want to go over some definitions now, Andrew, is that right?
Yeah, I just wanted to sort of define the age of consent for people, really, so that when they're talking to young people, they're very clear on what the guidance is. And legally in Great Britain, i.e. England, Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales, you need to be 16, or you should be 16 years of age or older before you engage in sexual activity, whether that be of a homosexual nature or a heterosexual nature. And if you have sex before the age of 16, it is a criminal offence, and it's actually classed as sexual abuse.
Okay, and there's another video for you to watch now, so if you'd like to just pause this presentation. Okay, so hope you found that second video useful. If you've got any other questions, there's obviously the safeguarding team and Amanda in particular you can talk to. Thanks for listening.